take projection.
Welcome everybody to Taking on Sports. I am TD. That is Greg. Greg, how you doing, man?
I am pretty good. How you doing, nice sir?
I'm pretty good myself, man. Bye weekends are nice.
Yeah, they are.
It's stress free. You get to watch everybody else get stressed out, enjoy the
Right.
chaos, right?
Enjoy the game, yeah, for sure.
Pretty good week of sports, I guess. Pretty good weekend. Weather's starting to get cool again here. We
Yeah,
had that that one more dip in Alabama where you get warm again. Like even
correct.
Halloween night, we walked around a little bit and it was sweaty.
That was funny.
But yeah, let's get to it. Like we
Yeah,
mentioned, no Alabama this week, so a nice relaxing
for
weekend for
sure.
Tide fans anyway.
Yeah,
Got to watch other teams falter. A couple of
we
them
did.
probably beneficial to Alabama as far as the
More
playoff race
for
goes.
sure, definitely.
But let's start with the big one, of course. Ohio State, Penn State. We've already talked about how dumb it is that Big Noon Saturday is last week, so we'll skip over that part. But the story once again, James Franklin cannot beat Ohio State. Has
Jeez.
eight straight loss to the Buckeyes,
Yeah,
and it was there for him. Up early with the pick six and 2 first and goals from inside the 5, and
yeah.
couldn't score touchdowns on either one. Ohio State goes into Happy Valley, wins again. Uh, so my question to you does is James Franklin in any sort of trouble, or do you think because the 12-team playoff and Penn State probably won't lose again and they get in, is he just fine? Is Penn State just fine with this, or do they get to a point where they're like, man, you got to beat Ohio State, man?
Man, that's a tough question. Just because I mean, that's a dangerous game you play because I mean, 10-2, 11-1. I mean, you got to appreciate that. I understand it's frustrating, but unless you have the perfect guy to come in to take you to the next step, it's a big risk to move on from James Franklin.
Well, it's true. We
You know,
saw
I,
that with Nebraska and Frank
yeah,
Solich. Yeah.
right. Um, but I guess the closest comparison, kind of, if you think about it, is kind of Mark Richt at Georgia.
Hmm.
He was always hell of a coach, good, a lot of wins, but never the big games.
Hmm.
He had some big games, but overall, he would, lose to Alabama, he'd lose to Florida. Um, I was, 10-2, 11-1 sometimes, but never a national champion. Not in, and then of course, but they did move on till they had the right guy, and that was Kirby. Now that's a once in a
Hmm.
lifetime type of hire. So,
Hmm.
James Franklin, I mean, overall, hell of a coach. I mean, but you look at it too. I mean, he loses to Ohio State. A lot of people lose to Ohio State. So, I mean, you have to
That's true.
put in perspective. I mean, it's not like he's losing to bums. He's literally losing. He lost to Michigan when Michigan was a top five team. Losing to Ohio State when they're an elite team. I mean, it's frustrating, and if you make that move, you got to make sure it's the right move because it's not everybody's gonna come in there and be able to cut 10-2, 11-1 every season.
Hmm.
So be very careful with what you want. I understand it's frustrating, but yeah, I think the 12-team playoff definitely helps them out because I mean, even if you do lose to Ohio State, I mean, if you go 11-1 in the Big Ten, unless craziness happens, you're gonna get in the playoff every year. So
Yeah, no doubt. It probably ends any hopes they have of a Big Ten title, barring some
I would
chaos in
think
front of
so.
them. Because
Yeah,
you have undefeated Indiana and Oregon, and then one
one
loss Ohio
loss,
State, which owns the
exactly.
tiebreaker.
Yeah,
So you need them to lose, and then some help with Indiana
twice.
and Oregon. Yeah. So,
Well,
but they have Washington
yeah,
at Purdue, at
yeah,
Minnesota, and then Maryland, and those are all very winnable games for Penn State.
right.
So
I think the main thing is he can't, of course, can't lose another one.
no.
And I would just have to say too, you know, then at that point, just like once you get to the playoffs, um, I don't know how you look at it in year one, but eventually, they make the playoff every year. I guess eventually you might move on if every year you lose in the first round, you don't get past that first round. You might get tired of that every year. But I think that's a little bit down the road, considering this is the first time we have the playoff and everybody's just kind of seeing how it's going to go to begin with. So, but
Yeah, I wonder. It's something interesting to watch too. Is it just like an Ohio State thing? Like, do they get in the playoffs and play other teams and then beat them,
yeah,
or is it an elite team problem? Is
all
there
right,
something there? But yeah, it's something interesting to watch.
it is
How the rest of their
now.
season goes. Yeah.
All right, now I will say he has some issues. I mean, he was getting into it with fans after the game. There are videos of him like get into it with the fans. Ask,
Oh.
"What's your name, bro?" If you're gonna
Mm.
talk trash, at least tell me what your name is. It's like, come on, man. You're the head coach at Penn State. Like, you can't,
Can't be doing
you,
that.
you
Yeah.
can't be doing that. Like, you can't get into it with the fans. I mean, you have to understand where they're coming from, and that's why they're fans, fanatics. So, I mean, you're gonna have the type of people like that as a head
Hmm.
coach at one of the biggest universities. You can't, you have to stay away from that. You can't get involved in that because
Absolutely.
that'll hurt you even
Yeah.
more. Um,
Yeah. I mean, there's the one thing that always sticks out to me is he needs to find somebody who knows how to call a good fourth and short play.
yes.
Because every time, and this is going back years and years, man, anytime they
Mhm.
have a critical big game moment like this, and it's usually against Ohio State, then they get a fourth and short, and I'm not questioning his decision to go for it. I agree. Go for it. You have fourth and goal from the one, go for it, get that touchdown. But they
Right.
never seem to have the right play dialed up. It's not even like, oh,
Never.
well, the defense just made the better play. It's just like, that was not a
It's a
play
horrible
call.
play. No.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, it's
so,
the same.
yeah.
It's kind of the same story every year.
Hmm.
Even with the new offensive coordinator, that was a thing. They brought in the guy from Kansas, Kovanicki or whatever his name is, and seems to have been working up in the but some about so Ohio State and in the past has been Michigan as well. They just fall flat at the worst possible time. And they had plenty of time. I guess that's the other thing. Like you said, they had plenty of times. Even at the end of the game, I mean, they had 4 plays within the 5 yard line
Hmm.
after that big catch.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then they get down there and they're not going to that tight end whose name is escaping me right now, but he's the one that got him down there. And then all of a sudden you
Right.
don't go at him and where you need it
Uh,
most. Yeah, he's just can't seem to find that right guy.
yeah. I don't know.
But like you said, you made great points there. Like the grass ain't always greener. So if
No,
you
it's
are
not.
the Penn State AD or whatever, and you know
Make that
you have
move. Whoa.
you have to be sure. Yeah, you have to be sure. But like we said, also, who knows? Maybe they do get in the playoff, and maybe it's an Ohio State thing. Maybe they win a
Right.
couple games, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, like, or maybe
Yeah.
they finally get that guy in there at quarterback. Maybe it's just maybe he's just been lacking that one star player or something
Yeah.
that
Because that
really.
is one thing. Like, I mean, they don't ever really seem to have a true. I mean, they do every now and again. They've had
Hmm.
what Saquon Barkley, but
Yeah. Uh,
there's not. I mean, Drew Aller seems to be a decent quarterback, but yeah, I mean, they don't ever have like a top five. Just a star.
yeah.
There's never
Yeah. They
seemed to
don't.
be a definite star wide receiver or a great running back. They've had them in the past, but yeah, right now they just don't have that guy. 'Cause right now, the tight end is that guy. But
Hmm.
yeah, they didn't use him in the most key, which is weird.
Hmm.
But then at the same time, when you're also down at the goal line, why aren't you able to run at all? Like, where's that at? Like, you
Yeah.
should be
You
able
got
to get a
to,
couple yards.
especially Big Ten football, right? You got
Yeah,
to
but
bow up
you
and
would think so.
yeah.
I mean, and the other thing too is, you know, Ohio State is decent, but they've been struggling themselves, and this might
Mm-hmm.
have been the year to catch them.
Exactly. And I thought I did. I think I picked them in both our pick'em groups, online, and I thought that this was it. I was like, you know what, this just feels like the time that
Yeah.
they catch them, and it was there for them. They just couldn't.
When they went up 10-0, I was like, well, here we go.
With especially with the pick six, because that's the
Yeah,
type of touchdown that really
really
energizes
gets
your
you going.
crowd.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
crowd was going. I was like,
yeah,
wow, this might be the time. And lo and
hmm
behold, right back.
yeah, yeah.
Man,
And again, all credit to we talked this
Ohio State.
Penn State. All credit to Ryan Day and Ohio State for
Yeah,
bouncing back.
for
Will
sure.
Howard played a great game.
He did.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah,
they just continue to be. I think they were my preseason champions pick.
yeah, they were. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to go back. I thought I had saved that in a file somewhere, all of our predictions, because I was going to
Mhm.
maybe give like a mid-season check-in, but
All
I
right.
didn't. So I'm going to have to go back and listen
Yeah.
to that
Yeah, I
episode and
think. Yeah, I think
write them
you
down.
had Ohio. If I remember right, you had Ohio State. I had Georgia for the as champion.
Yeah.
But
Um,
but overall, I mean, but really, the entire game was kind of, for as big a game until the very end. It was kind of a blah kind of game. I mean, it was just.
it was a
I don't.
slugfest. Yeah, it was
I
not
mean,
necessarily a rock fight, but it
no,
was.
it was kind of sloppy. I don't.
Hmm
And then you know, Penn State had that crucial interception at the end of the first half when they got down to the one basically, and he dude, it looked like a perfect pass. He threw it into the
Oh, yeah.
Ohio
When
State.
the Ohio State guy didn't even know he had the interception. It was
Yeah,
like it just bounced to him and he held on to the ball. That
yeah,
was a big turning point.
and that was
Uh,
at the end of the first half, and then
hmm
man, that
Could
would
have,
have
yeah, they could have gone into the break up. That would have. It's just one of those games, and that's kind of the story. They don't get the breaks. They
yeah,
don't make the big plays.
yeah,
No one steps up, and it's same old story.
yeah,
Uh, well, let's move on. Real quick, just staying in the Big Ten. Oregon just beat the hell out of Michigan. They
yeah,
just continue to roll along in their first
yeah.
season in the Big Ten.
Yeah,
Uh,
they're looking good.
Indiana went down
Oh,
10-0 to
wow.
Michigan State, and then
And so,
said, "Well, that's about enough of this shit."
yeah, and that's crazy. That was the first time that they've been down all season, and
Mm. And it did not
they
last
get
long,
pissed
and
them off,
it did, yeah, it
and
just
they
made
beat
them
the
angry.
hell out of Michigan State after that. Like,
And yeah, it was oof. And then
and
Minnesota upset Illinois
yeah.
toward the back end of the standings there, but yeah,
Yeah.
Indiana and
And this,
is that
this Indiana team. I mean, a couple weeks when they play Ohio State, that's not a gimme game for the Buckeyes at all.
not at all? No.
And it doesn't
Uh,
matter Columbus or not. Like,
mm-mm.
they better be ready to play.
No.
Because
Who's your?
Indiana's gonna come in.
Yeah, they're Indiana's coming to play, so you better buckle up that
Yeah,
chin strap, as they
yeah,
say. Elsewhere, we'll move to the night games. It was kind of, not a ho hum day to
yeah.
start, but nothing. We had that Miami and Duke were back and forth for a little while, and then late in the
Miami
game,
said,
Miami just
let's stop playing around with these guys.
exactly. Miami pulled away, got a little backdoor cover, which
Yeah.
made me mad because I had Duke plus 20 and
Yeah.
a half in our
Right.
picks column. Uh, Army remained. They beat Air Force without their starting QB, so they're still unbeaten.
Yeah, beat them
Um,
20-3, I think. Yeah.
yeah, 20-3. Yeah, it was just kind of one of those days. And then
Eh.
let's see what else happened. Georgia beat Florida in a cocktail party.
Dude, Florida game a game for man.
About three. Yeah, DJ Lagway hamstring injury. Um, but they were tied. What in the fourth quarter?
yeah. I mean,
20 all
he,
before Georgia
it's
put two up late.
before that
Yeah.
horrible interception.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, that man, I mean, it's tough that he's even out there. I mean, clearly there was no intention for this man to transfer from what is it, Yale or Princeton? Like
Yale. Yeah, it's a
clearly,
Yale.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly, I mean, he it wasn't meant to be that he was supposed to be in the game, so that's tough. But I mean, overall, I thought he did decent considering. I mean, he had never been in that situation before, and
Mm-hmm.
your first time playing at Florida for real, and it's the big world's largest cocktail party against
Mm.
one of the best teams in America. That's a tough situation to go into. But
Yeah, it's a tough
they,
ask. And
they Florida, they hung though. I mean, they played
mm,
tough. You wonder if DJ doesn't get hurt. I don't know if they win the game, but you wonder. But
it's definitely something Florida fans are going to wonder because they kind of
yeah,
they had to go one dimensional after he went
yeah,
down. The passing game just really wasn't there, and
all
Lagway would
right.
have added that. And Carson Beck once again 3 more picks.
Three
Man, he is
picks,
just
man. He's a pick
not.
machine.
He
And
is not. He's looking like someone playing college football on Xbox. Man, like just
yeah,
throwing 3 picks but still winning somehow.
yeah.
Uh,
Very, yeah. As a Georgia fan, you would have to be somewhat worried about that because eventually that three picks is you're not gonna in the playoff. That's not gonna
hmm
get you a win. You're not
Yeah,
gonna be able to throw
exactly.
three picks
That's
against Oregon or Ohio State or that's not gonna that's not
well.
gonna work out for you long
Yeah,
term.
we saw it against Alabama. Even though they
Yeah,
did come back, take the lead. Those 3 picks in that game was the reason
cause
they got down so big.
yeah,
So, uh,
yeah,
yeah, that's something that they need to fix quick because they travel to Oxford next weekend,
yeah. And
and
so
an Ole Miss team that just beat the hell out of Arkansas
wow,
yesterday. So they are
jeez,
fired up. And we asked the
yeah,
question a lot too. Is Lane when will Lane get his big win? Is next
that
week
would be
it?
it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because they still
And
have
they
what?
need
They
it.
still have Tennessee. They still have Ole Miss.
Mm.
Yeah, they even against those guys, three or four picks against either one of those might
Mm-hmm.
be your time that you're not gonna recover.
Yeah, and that's and 2 completely different ways, but just as dangerous. Against Ole Miss, you can't give that offense more possessions to
Mm,
score,
no,
and against Tennessee and how good that defense is and how much they run the
yeah,
ball, control the clock. Yeah,
right.
Carson Beck needs to get that under control in this
Oh
week,
yeah, for sure.
because
Because that's
that
yeah.
could not that Georgia's really in danger of missing the playoffs, but what
Yeah.
happens if they lose a couple games in a row?
I'm saying
You
you get
know.
the, but they,
hmm
two. But crazy thing is, right now, based upon where some teams no one expect to be where they're at, two losses doesn't guarantee you anything this year.
Especially if say an Alabama wins out and Georgia loses
You
one of those
lost
games,
because you
and all of
that
a sudden,
there's a
yeah,
tiebreaker.
yeah, Alabama's got the head to head. So yeah, it's
Yeah, so
certainly a
it's
problem
been
and
a
definitely an area of concern for Georgia fans.
yes for sure.
But and then after that is when things got really fun.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah they did.
Texas A&M, we talked about it last week. South Carolina's a dangerous place. This is a hungry team. They came close against LSU, came
They're a
close
good
against
team. They're
Alabama.
not a bad
They're
team at all.
they're a good team, and they proved it last night.
Wow,
That pass rush was as intense as ever, and Lenore Sellers was just
he was lights
doing
out,
his
wasn't
Cam Newton, Lamar Jackson impression. Now, no
he?
matter
He
what
was,
A&M did, the guys bouncing off him, and he is
and that's
scrambling for
against a
20 yards.
great defense. That's against a great defense. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the Aggies have
Mm-hmm.
had one of the better defenses in America
Yeah.
all season.
Yeah, it was a there's that one particular one. I want to say it was like the second quarter. So that Texas A&M linebacker something just got a clean rush straight at
Yeah,
Sellers and hit him hard. And when he hit him, I was watching. I said, "Oh!" And then he just bounced off of him,
yeah.
spun out, and then I think completed a pass for about 20, 30 yards. Uh, this game was tied at half, and then 24-0 second half for the
Opened
Gamecocks.
it up. No,
Rocket Sanders 144 on the
yeah,
ground. Uh, yeah, what are you going to say something on it?
no, yeah, no. The only thing with Moss getting hurt yesterday, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how much that affected A&M, but I think that kind of threw him off a little bit because, of course, that's a huge part of the offense. But man, but our credit to South Carolina, they took advantage of everything, hopped out to that early lead when they got up 14-0 real quick. And I was like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
And then bounced back in that second quarter. I thought, man, that second half is gonna be great. Didn't expect what we saw there. I mean, South Carolina just dominated that second half. It
Mm-hmm.
almost felt like that South Carolina Tennessee game from a couple years ago. You know, back and
Mm-hmm.
forth, and then boom, South Carolina said, just took it to a different level. And every now and again you
Yeah,
get that from South Carolina. If they
it
could
was like
ever
a
find some consistency, my goodness,
yeah, and Sellers freshman, redshirt freshman,
yeah,
so it's there for them, and how
yeah.
good of a transfer portal pickup was Rocket Sanders for them.
Oh wow, huge. I mean, just
Huge.
with. But man, but in South Carolina, you just have to wonder, man. You just wonder, man, should have beat LSU, could have beat Alabama.
Hmm.
Really, they should only have one. South Carolina fans look at, man, we should only have one loss on the season right now.
Yeah,
Because
they should be in the thick of the SEC race.
right. But I
But
mean, they're
it's
still
also you got to build that program consistency
right.
there, and
Yeah, that's the thing.
um, you got to hope that no one comes in to try to lure Shane Beamer away from you.
Yeah, because who knows?
But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for a guy, he's been kind of up and down. People were starting to wonder about him. Was he the right guy there? He had that end of the 22 season was really great, and then
Hmm.
last year, but a lot of injuries last year kind of threw them off their path. I think.
Hmm.
They rebounded well this year. And now, man, they
But
could
big
definitely,
win. Yeah,
yeah,
big win for
huge
them.
win for
Great
them.
for the program. And then as that was happening, we also got some more chaos. Texas Tech ended Iowa State's unbeaten season in a great game late. Crazy Iowa State took the lead late, and Texas Tech went right back down the field
Right down the field.
and
In the
took
rain,
the
in the
lead.
Ames. Like,
Mm-hmm.
man.
Yeah.
And this is a Texas Tech team that had lost two straight, including getting slaughtered at home 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Baylor whooped them in Lubbock.
Yeah.
And then they lost to TCU last week. So they come into this kind of beat up, and they were ready, though. I mean, they went blow for blow with Iowa State. And,
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a lot of people that seemed like were really high on Iowa State. I mean, of course, they're still right in the thick of things um, and it's still in the Big 12 race. But man, it definitely let you just know, like we've been saying all year, man, the Big 12 is just so even. You just don't any week, nothing shocks you really.
No, yeah, it's crazy. And then as that was happening, Louisville went into Clemson
Wow,
and just kind of beat the hell
dominated.
out of Clemson, pushed them around. They blocked two
Yeah,
kicks, uh, made Cape Club look no good. He threw the ball 56 times. Uh, they just ran all over them. That Louisville running game.
that whole game just shocked me because
Yeah, yeah, because
I
it
was on
was
the verge
in.
of saying, man, this Clemson team. I mean, they were looking great. I mean, since that Georgia game, they've been racking up points, blowing
Mm-hmm.
folks out. Now, their schedule hasn't been the toughest, but
I'm about
you
to
know,
say that's the thing and that was the one caveat to them looking so good is that all of those wins are against teams with losing records.
right, that it
And
was.
yeah,
But this was not the game that I expected that to happen because
no, no.
Louisville they've have shown. I mean, they've been fun, but I didn't think they had the just to go in on the road into a tough Death Valley
Hmm.
and
Yeah, yeah. If they
not
were
only
in Louisville,
win.
that's one of those places where
Yeah,
that's usually where Louisville gets their upsets is in Louisville. Their
yeah,
home games, they're real tough,
right. But on
and
the
they've been an
road,
up and down team this season.
yeah, I mean, they lost to SMU, lost to Notre Dame. I mean, they lost to Miami. I mean, they had some, I mean, they were in those games, but never did I think they were going to go not only go into Clemson and win, but win convincingly.
Hmm.
Not even a question. Like, man, just took it to Clemson
Yeah.
all game. Kept on thinking, man, Clemson's going to make a run. Not really.
Hmm.
They just kept.
Mm-mm.
And it's crazy because the crowd was booing. You boo, like they couldn't believe what was going on. Like it was
And yeah,
crazy.
and it makes you wonder. We had thought, like you said, after that Georgia game, everyone's talking like, "Oh man, Clemson's, it's just gone."
That's what
And then
sucks.
they go on the big winning streak, and they're like, "Okay, now we're good." And then now a loss like this again, and you start again. I think those questions are going to
Oh,
creep back up. Like, man, has Dabo lost it? Are they no longer? Are they
yeah,
just second tier?
you're right.
Are they done being an elite program in college
Yeah,
football? Um, and again, you got to
definitely.
wonder: is there something missing from them that he refuses to go after transfer kids? Or
Yeah,
is it just maybe people figured Dabo out, or
right,
whatever it is, it's something Clemson fans are questioning.
you're right,
Why can't they get back to the
right
top?
to the top.
What
And
it did
then,
though. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, something obviously missing. But kudos to Louisville. I mean, they just came in and ready to go. They've had some tough losses. Bounced back from that tough Miami loss, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, they obviously mentally tough though, because you have those tough losses like that. You don't know how you're gonna bounce back. I mean, at that point you're kind of out of you're out of the playoff race, you're out of the ACC race. So what are you really playing for at that point? And to come in and dominate like that, that kudos to that staff getting those guys ready, and the players staying focused, because it's hard after you're kind of out of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. All good. Yeah. All hats off to Louisville there. Big win for them.
Yeah, for sure.
And now Clemson. They again they start to have to ask these questions, and
Yeah.
what that did was that opened the door as SMU.
Woo.
Some big moves at the top of this ACC standings
Yeah.
because SMU just beat the hell out of Pitt,
House. Yeah, house pit.
and
Absolute
now
house them.
those. Yep. And now the top of the ACC standings, both Miami and SMU unbeaten in league play.
And SMU.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, right. Who would have predicted it? Um, yeah, and
Yeah,
it's just,
and I thought that was gonna be a good game. I didn't. I had
mhm.
SMU winning, but I didn't think that they were gonna just house them from
Yeah,
start to finish, just
yeah, just the
dominant.
way Pitt has been this year, it's like they're like you said, yeah, I had the Mustangs winning too, but you're like, you know what, they're gonna slop
I'm
this
like,
up, they're gonna make it tough, and nope.
hmm,
SMU just that second quarter, man, they
wow,
just
they really
put
opened
it
it
on
up.
them. 24-point second quarter, and
Yeah.
then they were up 34-3 at one point, and just Pitt never,
Mhm.
and even the Pitt even added two scores late to make it look
Like,
somewhat decent. I
somewhat,
guess it's not
yeah,
even that, yeah.
no, yeah,
Uh,
that
but
was, yeah, that was a while. Yeah, it was shocking to see Pitt get dominated like that. Now, interesting enough, in a couple weeks we're still gonna have a Pitt Clemson game, so we'll find out.
hmm yeah,
Someone
that'll
gets
be.
eliminated out the ACC there. Um,
hmm
because now both still only have one loss in conference, so still very much alive, depending on how everything else plays out.
hmm Well, yeah, and then just real quick to run through some other stuff. Big 12, of course, we mentioned their chaos. Another upset. Houston upset Kansas State.
Wow, that was a
Uh,
shocker.
a big
Down
shocker,
19
yeah.
there. When they down
hmm
like 19 nothing or something at one point,
It
it was like
was they were
19
down. Let's
3
see.
or
I have it here. They were down at least maybe 16-0. Was it? I think I can't get it to pull up here.
but it's like at that point, I'm just scoreboard watching that. I mean, I'm not really paying attention like that, because you say, K State
hmm
obviously has it under control. And then you're like, what? And then,
No,
I
that
turned over to it at the end. And it's just like, man, that's just
yeah.
crazy.
They were down 19-10 going into the fourth quarter, and then took it over. Got the touchdown to get within two, and then late in the game they got that big run and scored, and yeah, just uh, a great win for Willie Fritz. Yeah, we talked about them. We talked about them all year that they just don't have really the talent,
Right.
but they got a great coach, and he's going to build something. And lo and behold, they're
Yeah.
3-3 in Big 12 play.
At
Uh,
3-3, 4-5 overall. I mean, for
hmm
as bad as things started off, I mean, this could be a team that could end up bowl eligible, depending on how things the rest of the season plays
Yeah.
out. I mean, you looked at
The
the
Scott.
rest of their schedule. I mean, Houston, they play Arizona next. Arizona's fallen by the wayside.
hmm
Um, they got housed last night. I don't know what's going on in Arizona, but
Yeah,
they're
UCF. UCF ended their 5-game skid in a big way against the
and
Wildcats.
then they play Baylor. You know who
hmm
knows how that one goes. They got
Yeah,
a win
Baylor's been
last
so up
night,
and down. Yeah.
and then they close the season at probably not going to beat BYU at BYU, but the next two games are very winnable games and very well could be,
hmm
at least get to that six, which would be a hell of a start for Willie Fritz considering how the season began for the Cougars.
Absolutely. If he can get this squad to a bowl game, that is just an outstanding coaching job by a guy who we know obviously is a great coach. But if you imagine he could take this roster and get him into a bowl game year one, what that'll do for his recruiting there.
Oh, absolutely.
Uh, yeah, we talked about it, I think, in the preseason, the preview episodes about how this is one of those programs that could be kind of a sleeping giant almost because it's such a talent rich area and they have resources. It's a huge alumni base. Uh,
One of those things,
you
kind
know,
of like SMU. If they
hmm
if they give them a product to be proud about, they're gonna
they're
show
going to
up.
support it. Yeah, they're going to
Don't
support
they?
it. And
Yeah.
we've seen them be a great program in the past. Recently, this isn't unlike SMU. This isn't a team that was
Yeah.
great, 40 years ago. This is a team
They
that
had
was
someone
really
they
good 10 years ago.
yeah. They were great with Kevin Sumlin.
hmm
They were great with
Tom Herman.
yeah. I mean, they were playing BCS bowls, beating folk.
hmm Yeah, this is a team and a program that loves football.
Yeah.
And again, just hats off to Willie Fritz. Also, there, Arizona State beat Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State still win this in conference play. It's just
Think about
crazy.
yeah.
A
That's
lot
a
of
good
people had them. They were one of the favorites in the Big 12
yeah. A
this
lot of
year.
people had them. Um, but
But
man, that running back at Arizona State was a Scatterboo.
oh, hmm
Man, he was a beast yesterday. 23, 153 on the ground, 4 for 121 and two tutties in receiving. I mean, just
hmm
a beast. They got their quarterback back. Sam Leavitt was back this week, which is a good thing because
hmm
the other guy is trash. But uh, yeah,
yeah. Speaking of
but
great coaching jobs, yeah, Kenny Dillingham there.
Dillingham, he got brought into a tough situation. I mean, whatever
Mhm.
happened when Herm Edwards was there, I mean, they ran everything into the ground somehow. Hey, I mean, it was bad. But I mean, you almost felt bad for Dillingham because he came into such a bad situation. It seemed, but hell of a job in his second year there. I mean, already bowl eligible, 3-2, and probably not gonna win the Big 12 this year. But I mean, to have them bowl eligible as bad as things were last year, hell of a job.
No, absolutely, and just that Big 12. Got BYU at the top, unbeaten in
hmm
conference play. You got Iowa State and Colorado right next to them with one loss. Then you
Yeah,
got 5 teams with 2 losses at Kansas State, Texas Tech, Cincinnati, Arizona State, West Virginia. And then you got
yeah,
Baylor, Houston, and TCU all right there at 3-3 too.
yeah. Just a wild
And
conference.
they're probably out of it. To
They're out of it,
conference
but they can spoil somebody. They can
exactly.
still
Yeah,
spoil somebody's stuff.
it's like really the only teams having bad years there. UCF, Utah, the big shocker.
Yeah.
Utah, man, they have only scored 72 points through 5
Jesus,
conference games.
that's wild.
Insane. Yeah, Kansas, Arizona, and then Oklahoma State too.
Yeah, tough,
But then
tough year for the Cowboys. Wow.
yeah, just crazy. Let's go back to the SEC to round up our college football. Already talked about, of course, the big ones: A&M, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. Diego Pavia once again
Well,
beats Hugh
once
Freeze.
again.
Just
And the
uh,
craziest thing about that is, where did Vegas get that line from? I did not get
I
that.
that,
That's one of the
that
ones
they,
that's just like, what? How were they an 8 point favorite or 7.5, whatever closed at? What? Well, like, I get, like, but by this point you gotta respect Vanderbilt. I know the
hmm
name, but obviously, like, Vegas is asleep. Like, how did they miss this so
hmm
badly?
yeah, and yeah, I jumped out, and that was the only college game I got right this week. I missed my Duke pick,
That
my
was like a
Illinois pick.
gimme.
And that's exactly what I said when I saw that. I was like, "There's no way in hell that Auburn could
I
win.
thought it was
There's no way in
printed
hell they're going to
wrong.
beat them by more than a touchdown."
Yeah,
But
and I was like, I didn't think there was a way they were gonna win.
mm-mm.
So much less
But
win by
once
8. I
again,
was like, what in the
we
world?
hmm once again we talked about it last week. Jarquez Hunter, we said he's gotten 20 carries 2 times this year. He's
Yeah.
run for over 150, ran for over 200 last week,
Yeah.
and they won both of those games. He got
Mhm.
12 carries yesterday.
Yeah.
How do you have a guy that dynamic? How do you call
Mm.
yourself an offensive genius if you're Hugh Freeze
Yeah.
and you only give him 12 carries and you send Peyton Thorne, who has shown you that he cannot be the quarterback you want? How do you let him throw the ball 29 times?
Yeah.
Because tell you what, the Auburn defense did their job.
Yeah. I
It's not like
mean,
Andy's
you know,
offense went crazy.
right.
Mm,
Yeah. 20,
They,
29. I mean, 239. I mean, at least he didn't throw any picks, but yeah, I mean, Doc was on a 1250. I
yeah,
mean,
he
that's
didn't
just
lose in the
wild.
game, but you can't. Yeah, you got to give that man more touches than 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, what, 3 receptions? Okay, like
Yeah, but I mean, overall, I mean, yeah, Vanderbilt held him to 89 rushing yards, 143 receiving yards. Like, yeah, I mean, there wasn't anything. Yeah, their defense definitely kept them in the game. Man, they just can't win. They don't know how to win. Um,
I don't know how. If you're Auburn at this point, last week he equaled through 21 games the record of Bryan Harsin
yeah, he's
when
right
they
now. Well,
fired
Brian,
Harsin. Now he's
yeah,
worse. How do you
he's worse,
justify holding on to Hugh Freeze when honestly his teams looked worse than those
way
Harsin
worse.
teams did?
Yeah, I don't think Harrison's loses to OU.
Mm-mm. Yeah,
They don't lose that game. They don't
I
lose.
don't.
I don't think they lose to Missouri either.
Yeah, I don't think they lose to Cal. Uh,
Mm,
how do you? I don't know how you
yeah, I
justify
don't know.
keeping them. And then if you're an Auburn fan right now, you got to be wondering what
You
if
gotta
they
be
had
pissed.
decided to keep Cadillac and just go after big time coordinators, man,
Yeah, and re-
because
and re-
he had
and
that
then,
team motivated.
and then he get Cadillac off the staff. Obviously, something happened at the bowl thing,
Hmm
but it's noticeable without him. Tell you that. Don't know exactly what all happened with that situation, but man, it's been he's definitely been missed. If you're
hmm
Auburn, yeah, but yeah, the big what if. Yeah, I definitely don't think they'd be in this situation right now with Cadillac as the coach.
No, they'd probably at least be playing with some more effort or more
Some more heart.
some heart. Yeah, it's just
Dude, I think now
something's not right there. Yeah.
something's not right, but I think long term, I think it's honestly, I think it's karma. I think what's his name is a trash individual. Um, I think that
Freeze.
holier
Yeah.
than thou, yeah, that holier than thou persona that he had for a while, the longest, was a bunch of bullshit, honestly.
hmm
And more when they found out that stuff with the whole prostitution thing when he was at Ole Miss, I think that's really more him, and he
hmm
just covers it up well. Honestly, I could be wrong, but
That no, because he showed that stuff again. Some of those things that happened in Liberty, and
yeah.
how he,
He even had that
he
situation beforehand when he was at the high school level. Some
hmm
questionable stuff. I just don't think he's a good dude. And, I think it's just it's caught up to him. And some of his laundry's been aired, and we've seen it from his quarterback there. We're still having a field day every
Oh,
week
but
when Auburn
Bo
loses.
Wallace, man, is loving this. I have followed Bo Wallace just for his
Man,
post Auburn
Bo is
tweets, man.
having a great. Man, he's cooking the Auburn fans to try to get into it with him.
But yeah, if you're no, you're right, and from even ignoring all of that stuff, just from an on the field perspective, I've never seen it. The big deal with Hugh Freeze, yeah, he had some good offenses
Yeah, he
back in the
beat
day at Ole
Alabama
Miss.
twice. Big deal.
And yeah, and we've talked about this before. He beat Nick Saban 2 years in a row. Okay, but what did he do with that? Nothing. Alabama
That's
still won the conference in both of those years. So
This is
okay,
like the
you know.
most stereotypical Auburn hire of all time, just because he beat Bama. That's his claim to
Hmm.
fame.
Yeah, and
And
it's
for people that want to supposedly get away from, we only care about beating Bama. That wasn't the message
boom,
that you
boom.
gave by bringing
You
him
said
in.
it. You said it. Yeah, no. You wanna, yeah, you really want to compete, Bama. You keep Cadillac, the guy that had no business having the game they did a couple years ago in Tuscaloosa in the Iron Bowl when they
Yeah,
ran for like 300 yards on us and
yeah,
made it a closer game than it ever should have been,
right,
with Cadillac as the interim coach there.
exactly.
But yeah, so Diego Pavia ends his career 3-0 versus Hugh
So
Freeze.
gets it freeze.
Uh, Elsewhere in
Hilarious.
the SEC, Tennessee survived Kentucky. Schizophrenic Kentucky, and
And
there
that
was it
was
was
this so weird.
it was shaky.
Kentucky is so weird. Like, I don't understand them at all. Like, this is a team that got absolutely slaughtered by Auburn last week. Do you
Hmm.
think they're going to go to Knoxville and just get mollywopped?
But nope.
They
it's,
hang
it's
around. Again, if, well, maybe this quarterback should have been playing beforehand because he's a mobile dude. Made some nice runs. Through the bad pick at the end there.
oh, really, really bad pick.
But again, that's just lack of experience.
Mhm,
But if I'm Kentucky, if I'm a fan, I'm like, why has he not been playing at all? Because Vandegraaff is not it.
and now you're Kentucky. You're looking at missing out in the bowl for the first time in probably a good few years. I can't recall it off the top of my head, but they have Murray
Yeah,
State, so there's a win there, and then you have at Texas, and then home for the rivalry game with Louisville. So it's
I
going to
don't think
take.
we need one of those.
I about to say it's going to take a big feat. So maybe why don't you just play
I just got
this
to play.
young guy? Yeah, unless you're just hoping that
I mean, he's a
maybe
mobile. At least
mhm,
he brings you some mobility. He's a mobile quarterback. I mean, they
brings you
have
something
some.
different. Yeah.
And they actually have some explosive plays, and that's something we haven't seen from Kentucky all season. Is explosive
Hmm.
offense, and I
Hmm.
still don't understand how they ever beat Ole Miss. I don't. That is the wild. You go back and think about that game, and you're like, what in the
I do
world
not.
happened
How
that
how
day?
did they beat Ole Miss? How did they almost beat Georgia?
Yeah.
Uh,
And then
now
last week they
that's.
gave. I mean, they were scared. Man, they had Tennessee right. I mean, had Tennessee scared yesterday until the end. I mean, until they pulled away.
Mhm.
At the end. But I mean, Kentucky had that game right where they wanted it. It was crazy. It's like, dude, this Kentucky team is so. If you're a Kentucky fan, you got to be frustrated because you're like, where
Mhm.
this team? You don't know what to expect from this team in any week. They don't. They're different every week. No consistency at all.
No, yeah, and no, you're right. I kind of stopped paying attention to it in the third quarter. I was like, okay, Tennessee's about to pull away. And then Kentucky got that touchdown and the 2 point,
Yeah.
got right back within three, and I was like, oh, but
Yeah.
Tennessee got that late score to really put it
Yeah.
away. And man, talk
Yeah.
about some man, you got to be taking your heart meds if you're a Tennessee fan this year.
Man, they've
Uh,
had every week. They
every
don't
week,
have an easy game for anything.
mm-mm. Yeah, and they're
This is
and they're
supposed to be their. I thought for sure this was gonna be their easy game.
and
At
they still
home
have.
against the.
Yeah, right. You thought maybe okay, this Kentucky team's faltering. Maybe this is where Tennessee really shows up and pulls away, but nah. Uh,
No.
and they're not done yet. They still got road trips to Georgia and Vanderbilt this year. So
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
do your breathing exercises, Vols fans.
yeah. Good thing for them. At least they're playing Mississippi State at home this week, but you would
That's
hope
right. Who,
you get easy.
congrats to the Bulldogs for getting a homecoming win over UMass yesterday.
Yeah, get them that
Probably be
second win,
their, as
probably
I
the
would say,
last win.
yeah, probably their last win
Win
of
of
the
the
year.
season.
And then also Oklahoma, a win over Maine yesterday.
Mhm.
So some teams that needed a W, even if they weren't against the
Needed
toughest
a
of opponents. Yeah.
W because man, this offseason in Norman's gonna be a very uncomfortable
It's going to be
offseason. Let me
interesting
say.
to see what happens. And, they've got Missouri, Alabama, and LSU left there
Yeah,
for
I
the
don't see a
Sooners. So
win.
that's,
I don't see a win there. Man, OU not making a bowl game. Yikes.
that would be crazy because it's at Missouri, home for Bama, and at LSU. So
Yeah,
oof,
that's
that's
tough. The SEC did them no favors with this schedule at all.
no, they
Now,
did not.
now
They,
Missouri, who knows what Missouri's gonna be doing? Maybe
I'm about
hang
to say
around with
that's
Missouri
who the hell knows what's going to happen that one. Yeah,
because I
let's look
mean,
ahead to next week on the dock. Of course, a big one: Alabama, LSU,
yeah,
a playoff eliminator.
yeah,
Um, in
and
Baton Rouge right now, it looks like Alabama's a 2.5 point
super,
favorite or
yeah.
so. Um,
I think
yeah,
we're just living off our. Think we're living off our name a little bit. I don't know.
yeah, we'll see. You'd love to think that last week's performance against Missouri is a harbinger of things to come, but um, you just never
I
know,
don't
especially
know.
with a Brian
You
Kelly
just
coach team.
never
We
know.
talked about Kentucky being up and down. That Brian Kelly coach teams are
Yeah,
uh, maybe they come out and Nussmeier looks like a Heisman candidate, or maybe they come out and you know,
yeah,
they shit the bed and we rout them. Who the hell knows?
yeah. I mean, it could go a lot of different ways on Saturday night. All I know is it's gonna be loud. It's gonna be wild down there. It's gonna be
Mhm,
nighttime. They have all day to get drunk, and
mhm,
game day is gonna be there. So you know it's gonna be a wild atmosphere, and hopefully we just come in
mhm.
there and run the damn ball. Have
Yeah,
long
and
possessions, keep Nussmeyer on the sideline.
hope
Because
that
obviously
Jalen can
they've
make
had,
a.
yeah,
Go ahead.
run the. You know, obviously they have their issues with stopping the mobile quarterback. We saw that against A&M. You know,
Hmm.
hopefully we saw that and puts Jalen in some good spots to run, but also that we run with the running backs because you know the running backs A&M ran well. So you know, and that's been their biggest thing is they can't really stop the run very consistently. So hopefully we can establish a running game because the main thing with that is we can't do anything to give that crowd momentum. We can't have a huge pick. We
Mm-mm.
can't, we can't, and we got to play smart. Like I understand a penalty in a play, but we cannot have any of this pre-snap bullshit.
No, yeah,
Like
you can't have over 10 penalties. You
no,
can't have consecutive three and outs. You can't go
no,
dormant for stretches.
no,
You mentioned you got
exactly,
to use the running backs to keep that crowd at bay, and really you also got to do it to get those safeties cheat up a little bit and maybe
right,
get Ryan Williams into some one-on-one coverage so he can make a
exactly,
big play.
exactly. Because
And you mentioned in LSU's two losses this year, A&M and USC, they ran the
the
ball.
ball,
That
yeah,
USC game especially, they just ran it right at them.
yeah,
And
yeah.
elsewhere, Georgia, like we said, visits Oxford and Ole Miss, and an Ole Miss team coming off
Oh,
with a lot of momentum. And we
man,
already talked about all
that
those questions with Carson Beck.
yeah, but that really just like I thought Ole Miss would win that game yesterday, but
Mhm.
the fact that they had 500 and some yards passing, I mean that was just wild.
Yeah,
Now
what's
the
Jackson
question,
Dart? Yeah,
Jackson Dart just went absolutely nuts yesterday, and now the question is as soon as we had Sam Pittman off the hot seat, maybe he's back on the hot seat because I mean that's a bad loss.
Mm,
And they've had two bad losses in a row, you know, at home, losing in the way that they did to LSU, and in the way they've
mhm,
lost to Ole Miss. Not even competitive in either of those games. So even though
mm-mm,
they're still one game out of the, bowl game, as an Arkansas fan, you gotta be kind of frustrated that in those two games, not so much that you lost, but how you lost. You got slaughtered.
mhm. I said it years ago, and obviously they stay in the SEC because of the money, but from a competitive standpoint, Arkansas would have been so much better off in the Big 12.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely, absolutely.
they'd be just right at home in the middle of all that
Yeah,
chaos.
but it wasn't a Big 12 when they jumped to the SEC. So,
No,
I
yeah,
mean,
that was years ago when
they,
the SWC was falling apart, and they made the right move for them. But
yeah, they made the move before the conference went belly up.
yeah, but they've
Um,
never won it since they've been so.
no,
Elsewhere, let's see. Running through, let's see. Ohio State. Just running through top 25 games. Ohio State hosts Purdue. Miami on the road to Georgia Tech. Florida on the road to Texas. We'll see if DJ Lagways.
yeah, DJ doesn't play at all. Oof,
That could get ugly. Yeah.
you know,
Indiana hosts to Michigan. Again, this Michigan squad is not last year's. Indiana's a 14-point favorite now, and I don't
yeah,
see a
that
reason why they won't.
no won't
Um,
cover.
yeah, Iowa State tries to rebound at Kansas.
You would think
Army
they'd be
tries to,
okay there.
I think so. Army tries to stay unbeaten at North Texas. A good North Texas team, but Army
That's
should.
might be an interesting game.
Yeah, I think it depends on the health of that Army quarterback.
Yeah,
Clemson tries to rebound. They go at Virginia Tech, who had a bad loss themselves at Syracuse yesterday.
dude, they were up what 24-3. Like they were
Yeah.
taking it to Syracuse, and
Hmm.
Syracuse just came all the way back. You
Yeah.
know,
No, no. Yeah. Speaking of bad losses, yeah, that was a big one in the Big 12, Colorado at Texas Tech.
oof, that's
Like we
interesting.
mentioned with those losses, Colorado's right in the thicket of
Right
getting
in
to
the
that Big
thick
12
of things.
title game.
And if you look at their schedule, there's not anything on there that says that they can't win.
No, yeah, I think we played that game with them last week, and yeah,
Yeah,
they with the way they're playing, and they had a bye week this way to heal whatever nagging injuries are there.
yeah.
But Lubbock is a strange place.
Lubbock is
Uh,
definitely a
hmm
wild spot. We've
uh,
seen a lot of craziness over the years there.
South Carolina off their big win, they visit Vanderbilt.
Mm.
That should be a good one, man. I think that's going to be a good one.
I think that could be a hell of a game.
Hmm.
You know,
Uh,
Vandy already a bowl eligible. South Carolina trying to get the bowl eligibility.
hmm
But that'll
uh,
be interesting to see how they come into that game. Just because such a big win. I mean, A&M obviously didn't do well off their big win. So this is their. So we'll see. But I think they'll be okay because I mean, obviously, no one's taking Vandy lightly at this point. I don't. I would
no,
hope not.
yeah, yeah.
So.
It'll be interesting to see that Vandy offense and Diego Pavia versus that
Mhm.
South Carolina pass rush.
Yeah, that that front
Phew,
is.
phew,
And
they're just
that was the thing that really shocked me because I thought the difference in that game was going to be because that South Carolina offensive line has been up and down, and I thought
hmm
that A&M defensive line was going to get after them. And
no, they played great last night.
I mean, they just, I couldn't, like, I couldn't believe how well they ran the ball. Like I thought, then
Hmm.
they were going to get after force sellers and having to throw a lot, and that wasn't the case at all. So.
Mm-mm. And then when they did get to him, like we mentioned before, they just couldn't take him down.
No, at all. And this is this is a epic game. I mean, that was
Mhm,
about as perfect a game as South Carolina could have hoped for. And really, it could have been worse, where, the one fumble in the first half when Rocket Sanders had a big
mhm,
run and fumbled at the end, that let A&M get back into it to tie it at halftime. I mean, they score there, and it made the route might be on before halftime.
mhm. Let's see elsewhere. Number one, Oregon hosts to Maryland. Tennessee hosts Mississippi State, as we mentioned. Number 10, Notre Dame hosts Florida State. Florida State, man, it's just so bad.
Dude, even and that was what's the name? That was the first time Mac Brown ever beat Florida State. I didn't realize he went to
Mhm.
Florida State till
I mean, I was about to
this
say the
week.
same thing. I saw that little note, his first win over his alma mater. I was like, I did not know Mac Brown was a Florida State guy.
Yeah,
Crazy.
was he there with Lee
Um,
Corso?
could have
Is it kind
been.
of the same age?
Yeah. Who knows? That's something to look up. Yeah. Although, how wild would it be if that's the win that Florida State gets this year? Uh,
Um,
I doubt it
yeah.
happens in South Bend, but
Oh man, you talking about
mhm.
wow? Yeah. two terrible losses at home.
Oh man, that'd be. Penn State, they try to rebound. They host Washington.
Tricky
Boy,
game.
tricky, yeah. Washington, they're another kind of one of those up and down teams this year. But you know how
Yeah, they got the big win yesterday. Beat
USC, yeah.
USC. I
But how
bet
does yeah
you
this how
they.
does Penn State respond? That's the
Yeah.
question.
But talking about that real quick about that USC Washington game yesterday, I bet you they never thought that they would be on the Big Ten Network. That game
Just
kind
talk
of a
about
low
things that just
low
don't feel
tier.
right. Yeah.
Nah. But it's the fact that you're not on NBC, you're not on you're not on Fox, you're on the
hmm
Big Ten Network. For that type of caliber game, you would have never thought game would have been on.
No, yeah,
Uh,
and that's not exactly what the Big Ten thought they were bringing in either. And
no, at all.
speaking of USC, man, it's
Oof, it's
looking a
bad.
little. They need 2 wins out of
I-
their last 3 games to get to bowl, and
Hmm.
uh, granted, it's they do host all the suddenly struggling Nebraska team
Yeah,
next
yikes.
week.
That was a bad loss
Yeah,
yesterday.
yeah, a home loss to UCLA is not a good look for the
No,
Huskers. They've now lost 3 in a row.
that Quest to 6 is just it's on hold.
Mm,
Goodness.
yeah, as Matt Rule tries to build in there, but and then USC
But I don't
themselves
know
they
how
play
you.
UCLA and Notre Dame after that. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I'm saying, how do you go from almost beating Ohio State in Columbia
hmm
to coming home and looking bad? Yeah, they made UCLA look pretty decent, and UCLA may be coming around a little bit, but man, that's a tough loss. That should
Yeah, it's not a big
that's not.
loss. Um,
No.
they
And
just do
then
not have a good of a squad there. Yeah.
no, but the thing with Nebraska, that offense that is bad. Their play calling is bad. They don't.
hmm
It's a bad, and they may need to look at get a new offensive coordinator in the off season because
Yeah, it's yeah.
yeah.
And then let's see. Boise State Ashton Genty looks for his continues his quest toward 2,000 yards. He was a little bit slowed down early in the game
Mm-hmm.
this weekend, but then bounced back and got about another buck 30 or something.
Yeah,
His assault on Barry Sanders' record,
probably not.
he's about 1,000 yards away now, and they got 4 regular season games left. They'll probably have a conference title game, and
Probably a
then
rematch with UNLV again. I would think.
yeah, so he needs to average about 200 a game, and then whatever
Just
playoff
a lot.
games if they get
That's
yeah,
a lot.
but
That's a
still
lot to ask of, but it's still a
it's
hell
a
of a
lot.
seat.
Exactly, he'll get an invite to New York,
But you
for
would
the
have to
Heisman
think.
ceremony.
You would have to think probably what five games. So he's probably at least getting 500, 600, probably closer to 650. So at least, so that puts him over two. So
I'm about to say he's got to get to 2,000 just the way he's running. Um,
for
but yeah,
sure.
and he'll probably get that invite to New York for the Heisman ceremony too, and well
Yeah,
deserved.
for
Uh,
sure.
Pitt rebound. They try to rebound. They host Virginia. Holy War next week. BYU at Utah. Even though Utah hasn't
Interesting.
had that good of a year, they're going to be hyped up and
Oh
want to
yeah,
end
they're gonna be
their
ready.
rivals' unbeaten year. So,
Yeah.
but
Now
BYU
the
did have the
interesting
bye
thing
week
is
this week.
Sataki's been on both sides of that rivalry because he
hmm
played at BYU, but then he coached it Utah. Now he's back at his alma mater, so he knows that game like no other. But yeah, if there's a game called Woody Hamel win, it'll be that one. So yeah, that'll be one to watch for sure.
hmm And then Washington State, the most quiet 7-1 season ever. They
Man,
host Utah State as they try to do whatever they can to try to get noticed by the playoff committee.
yeah, it's tough because that quarterback's had a hell of a year. Quietly, that
hmm
man has put up numbers like no other.
hmm
But
Yeah.
John Mateer. The only
hmm
thing is the only game that people really probably paid attention to is when they got slaughtered by Boise State.
hmm Yeah, and they don't really have a marquee game left. They got
No.
Utah State, New Mexico, Oregon State, and
Yeah.
Wyoming. So,
Mm.
but they can do is win out, and
Now and hopefully things go
yeah,
crazy, but
but
probably not. But you know, but hopefully it'd be interesting if they can at least run the table there and keep themselves at least in the conversation to a certain extent.
yeah, exactly, yeah, and then
But talking about the team that did themselves no favors yesterday, completely taking themselves out after getting blown out by Notre Dame. But they went down to Houston and lost to Rice Navy.
oh yeah, surprising, man.
Yeah, I watched the
Not
end of that because I was like,
yeah,
man,
not a good
no, they
Rice
did,
team.
no, they just fired their coach.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a tough look for Navy in a game that was delayed for what 5 hours at one point
Yeah,
due to the storm. Yeah.
they've had like 3 or 4 rain delays, so
Hmm.
but not a good look at all there.
Tough
So
loss.
now I guess,
Yeah, interesting day in the American because Memphis also went down at
yeah,
UTSA.
yeah,
Uh, effectively ending any hope they have a playoff probably, but also opening the door now. Tulane and Army
yep,
look like the favorites to make the title game. Tulane beat Charlotte last Thursday and stayed unbeaten in conference
mhm,
play.
yep.
So we'll see. I think we can probably move on to the NFL real quick.
My
Uh,
thing is, do we think that Army will do any better against Notre Dame than Navy did?
I,
Is it-
who knows? But definitely they need their quarterback healthy. I'm trying to
Yeah,
think. Let me look up his name real quick. I've said that. Bryson Daly. That's it. And they
yep,
leads the team in rushing almost 1,000 yards. Uh, we mentioned next week they got North Texas, and then they do get Notre Dame. Not quite at home. I think that game's in the Meadowlands as well,
yeah.
like that Navy
It's-
game was. But
But
it's in Yankee Stadium. Oh, interesting.
that's for us.
But yeah, I mean Army. By all accounts, technically there are only two conference games left, are North Texas and UTSA.
Yep.
So they could still finish that conference season unbeaten, playing the title game, and then they have the Navy
Mm-hmm.
game the next week, which is technically it's not an exhibition game. It counts, but it's not a
No, it's a
conference game.
non-conference. Yeah.
But yeah, either way, great season, and they got to handle their business in Denton next week, and then worry about Notre Dame.
Yep. Yeah,
But
North Texas coming around a little bit.
mhm.
So
Yeah,
it should be
one
interesting.
thing actually before we move on, you talking about playoffs and stuff. This week will be Tuesday. Will be the first. Uh,
Playoff ranking show,
yeah,
right now.
thank you. I was just completely blanking on what the word I was looking for
Yeah,
there.
it'd be interesting just to see how people put folks
Hmm.
and what their first original 12 will look like.
Yeah, and then, it's really interesting to see because it's not just how it has been or the top four get in because we have to think about the five auto bids for the conference winners.
Right.
And then I've always
They're
said
out.
it's dumb that they even do the rankings because you kind of they're not necessarily arbitrary, but they kind of are because you put a team, if there's a team in a bad spot, they have to do
Yeah.
extra work. It seems like when it should just be like college basketball is, they just release the bracket, and
Right.
um,
Because then yeah, I mean it brings up a lot of things because they'd be, oh, why were they at 2 last week and now you dropped them to 3 or 4 this week, like.
mhm,
And I know the NCAA basketball, they've started doing that stuff, but I don't think everybody really pays attention to it. Like they have that bracket show throughout the season as well, but I don't think everybody really
mhm,
pays attention to it like football. But yeah, I mean it's tough because yeah, I mean if you're kind of slighted at first, it's hard to get back into the race.
mhm.
As we've seen at times from teams. It's also gonna be interesting, just to see what they do with Indiana. I want to see what they do with
Mhm.
them. And I want to see what they do with these Big 12 guys. Where they have Colorado, where they have BYU.
I know,
Because
absolutely. Yeah. What do they do with SMU? What do they do with
yeah,
BYU? What do they do with Colorado? What do they
yeah.
do with the
'Cause there's a lot
Army?
of teams.
Hmm.
Because there's a lot of good teams this year that aren't big names.
Hmm.
And of course you wonder if, is a big name team gonna get pulled in over, a SMU or Indiana, just because of the money. But same time, if even if they do lose Ohio State in like a close game, they went 11-1. Yeah, there's really no way you can keep out of Indiana. you know,
No, yeah, with
and,
the one loss, assuming it'd
yeah,
be to Ohio
Ohio
State,
State.
I guess. Yeah. Um.
But then it'll be interesting too. Like, let's say, then it comes down to certain things like, what if, let's say, and this of course, just all what if as of right now, but let's say, in the Big 12, let's say BYU goes undefeated all season long, right? And
Hmm.
then lose maybe like, let's say, by 3 to Colorado in the Big 12 title game.
Hmm.
Like, of course, Colorado gets an automatic bid, but do you just say, oh, that's the only team that gets in out of the Big 12? That's the thing that I really want to see.
Hmm.
What would they do to a one loss? If BYU didn't run the table, but lost in like a close game to like a Colorado team.
Hmm.
What would happen to them compared to like a one loss, whoever may be on the it's not even in the championship game. Um, and then you look at it too. Now I would think if but then there's other teams like Miami. If they ran the
Hmm.
table in the regular season and then somehow let's say SMU beat them in the ACC championship game, I would still think that they would get in because it's Miami. But who knows?
And because they've had a great year, but I think any bubble teams right now are rooting for Miami to run the table
Yeah,
and win that
for sure.
ACC
And
title game because
because
that
there's
would
a lot of
probably make the ACC a one bid league.
yeah, yeah. You would think so. Because that would get SMU. If let's say it came down to them and SMU, and that would give SMU 2 losses, which probably keeps them out.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where the committee puts SMU,
Yeah,
maybe more so than any other team. Because if you look at the polls right now, like the AP poll has them 13th, the coaches poll is them
they don't
15th.
want
So
no love really.
yeah, do they respect them? And speaking of that, with Indiana, we talked about. I don't eighth in the AP poll, man. I think I put them ahead. They're behind Penn State, which is I think ridiculous. You got to put them ahead of them,
Yeah,
and then they're behind Tennessee. I'd probably put Indiana ahead of them.
yeah. I
Um,
guess really the only thing you can say for Indiana and probably SMU as well is both of them have had pretty soft schedules.
yeah, they've
Especially
had.
Indiana. Indiana's had a very soft schedule. I mean, they've done everything I mean, they've dominated and done what they're supposed to do against those type of teams. But really, if you look at their schedule, it's been
Yeah.
pretty questionable.
Yeah, and
I
some of the
mean,
wins they've had, like Nebraska's done them no favors by continuing to
no,
lose. Yeah.
yeah. I
But
mean,
yeah,
the
like you
Washington,
said, there's
but
got to be
they
something
done what
said
they,
for the way they're winning games.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not even any question mark.
Mhm.
And yesterday, I thought was impressive because you don't know, going into you know, Michigan State's not a great team, but they're not. They've been scrappy at times,
Mhm.
and you went into East Lansing and you beat the shit out of them. Like that's something to say. I mean, that was impressive. Um, but yeah, I think Indiana is everybody's worst nightmare because unless they implode, I don't see how they don't make the playoff.
No, yeah. Mm. Uh, yeah, I think that's probably good for
Yeah.
college for the week. Just real quick, NFL. Nothing huge going. The Ravens rebounded in a big way.
Oh, did
Uh,
they?
Yeah, beat the
Really,
hell out of a solid Broncos
solid
team.
Broncos team. Yeah.
Great response of the defense after last week. And Jameis just uh, all over them. Uh, really shut down Bo Nix in that uh,
Mm-hmm.
Denver offense, especially second half. Derrick Henry gets his 100th career rushing touchdown, getting to that rare club of 10,000 yards and 100 touchdowns. He
Yes.
again another 100 yards for him. He continues to look well on his way to another rushing title, and also trying to get to 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
He's at
You would have to
thousand. He's at
definitely
a
start to
thousand.
move to.
Yeah, 1,000 right now, and they got what they've played 9 games now, so he's got 8 left. He can get a
Yeah,
1,000 yards in 8 games.
and plus the playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah. But
You would have.
another just absolutely outstanding
Yeah.
Lamar performance
Yeah.
as he tries to win his third MVP and second in a row. He was just dropping dimes today, man. Just beautiful passes. They really took over that second flower. And Zay Flowers, man, that touchdown catch right before the end of the half.
Oh,
Denver had gone down, got a field goal, made it a touchdown game, and Lamar hit him. And there's a great screenshot someone had. He's got like 5 or 6. It's him and 5 or 6 Broncos defenders in the frame, and then he makes a move, gets a tackle, gets to the outside. Rashad Bateman comes in, clears out 3 guys with 1 block, and Zay gets it. So the Ravens finally found their number one.
yeah, for sure.
Um,
But there was
your
some
cow.
wild
Go ahead.
endings. I was saying at the
Yeah.
end, there's some
Mm,
wild endings in that Jaguars Eagles game. Jaguars fought all the way back from 22 down,
hmm
made it in there, and it of course
Well, speaking of great offseason pickups, Saquon Barkley continues just at that weird backwards hurdle he had. Devontae Smith had an outstanding catch.
amazing catch,
Uh,
and even more so than the catch was his footwork to stay in
hmm
bounds.
Yeah.
Just wow.
Eagles turning it on, man.
Yeah, I mean they got a little questionable, and of course Trevor Lawrence with the pick at the end there. I mean that's just
hmm
kind of mo these days, but they fought back. But yeah, the Eagles, even though they haven't looked the best at times, man, only 2 losses on the season, so they're, they're where a lot of teams would love to be right now.
Yeah. That Rams Seahawks game and the
Wild,
second, the
isn't
late
it?
window, wild ending. Great one hand catch there to win the game as
Dude,
Nakua gets
four,
ejected in the second quarter too.
yeah.
So
Nakua got ejected, but I mean that is fourth and was it 4th and 1? Probably
mm,
they just dialed it up. Stafford
hmm
just dialed it up.
that's a
Epic
team,
catch.
man. They got those guys healthy now. That offense, the defense is playing a little better. They're not that defense a
Watch
couple
out
years
for
ago with Aaron Donald, but
the
yeah,
scrappy. I
that's a
mean,
dangerous team in that AFC
I would want.
or NFC West.
Yeah, the NFC West is weird
hmm
because yeah, the 49ers, you just never know. I mean, they're when they're healthy, they're good, but they've been all over the place this year.
hmm
Good win for the Cardinals today. I mean, they're above 500 now.
hmm
Um, they got a good win there against the Bears.
Big
So that
win for
was
the Packers in Green Bay, or the Lions. Sorry.
the Lions. Yeah, they slaughtered Green Bay.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, a lot bigger than that 10-point
Yeah,
margin.
yeah. I mean, they dominant win in Green Bay. So I mean, that was huge there for them.
Just before one more thing about that, there needs to be a damn international council, uh, a court hearing about Bill O'Brien's how he did not use Jameer Gibbs more at Alabama.
Yeah,
He should be tried for war crimes. Uh,
yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah,
every
I
day,
don't.
every Detroit game you watch, Jameer makes like just some great run where it looks like he's going to be bottled up, then makes a cut or two, and just
Yeah.
hits a hole, and he's gone for 30 yards or so. Just sorry, I
Ah,
had to get that out.
yeah,
But a great win for Detroit. Only 261 yards of total offense, and like you said, they just dominated the game.
yeah, they did.
Uh,
And they even lost Branch. Branch got ejected there,
mm-hmm.
and still, and that was a good win in Green Bay. Always a tough place to win, and people always wonder how the Lions do in no weather. Bad weather. Did their thing. But that whole that whole NFC North, that's gonna be a fun ending to that division. The
It
rest
is.
of the season.
We're seeing
Yeah.
Minnesota
And I
take
got,
a kneel down right now to seal a win for themselves over Indy.
yeah.
Uh, your Cowboys, tough one.
Oh, they're terrible. It's just
Uh,
terrible. But
yeah.
and the thing, man, I I mean, I didn't expect to win. But it's just the way they lose is just crazy. And then Dak gets hurt. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but I mean, even if whether he's healthy or not, I mean that doesn't seem to be a reason why they win or lose. I mean, the offense is terrible. We have no running game. No one's healthy on the defense. Like it's just a sad season. And of course, then Jerry's like, "Oh, I might make a move at the trade deadline." Come on, Jerry, shut up. You were all in the off seasons. We saw how that went.
Yeah.
I might make a big move. Just wait. Come on, man.
And
Like
the big move might need to be getting rid of Mike McCarthy.
he's the offensive coordinator, and this year has not been it at all.
mm-mm.
Now
Um,
it's not all his fault because I mean, just the whole running back room, and then the fact that
mhm.
you bring Zeke back, and then Zeke's not even on the in Atlanta
Yeah.
because of disciplinary issues. It's like what? Is this like college? Like what? Like I don't
Yeah.
know. Baby, I mean, we're getting 12 people out the huddle. Like in the NFL, that should not be happening.
Mm-mm.
Like, my goodness, like that should not be happening ever. There's no way
Mm.
in the NFL should there ever be 12 coming out the huddle. I'm just like
No.
that's wild. Like it's just a long season. I be and then we play the Eagles next week, and yeah, that's not gonna be pretty.
No. What else today?
The only wins we have the only things that I can count on is we should be able to beat the Panthers, hopefully, even though they did beat the Saints today. And hopefully we'll beat the Giants on Thanksgiving. Outside of that, I don't think we have any other wins on the schedule.
Oof, tough. But yeah, you mentioned some good late finishes. The Bills, a game winning 61-yard field goal by Tyler Bass. Um, a big win for them to keep well ahead in the AFC East.
FC
Uh,
East. But
yeah, because we saw.
We had a good day though.
Yeah, Tua would look good. That Dolphins offense may be coming around, but it's going to take a lot for them to make a late season run here.
Yeah,
Uh, Bengals got a good win for them over the Raiders as they try to keep in that wild card race.
yeah,
Uh, the magic was gone for Cleveland today as the Chargers really dominated that game.
yeah.
Titans got a good late win in overtime.
Mm.
Drake May did a great play to force overtime. Kind of did a little Lamar impression. Scrambled
Big.
around, got out of a sack, then threw a bad pick. Yeah, in overtime.
Yeah,
Commanders uh, got a little dicey at the end there, but they got the win against the Giants. You mentioned Panthers. Bryce Young got a win, so good for Bryce.
man. Saints. You'd have to think
Mhm.
Dennis Allen. Does he have any more weeks left? Like I know he's the most hated man in New Orleans.
I about to say, I'll tell you that much. I know all my Saints fan friends. He is not.
No,
They
he's
want
not
they
a.
want him and Carr gone.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Derek Carr is not a very liked man in New Orleans at all.
how that team just didn't keep Jameis around, man. After a 2-0 start and looking
Yeah,
great in those two. They scored over 40 points in those two games, and
yeah,
ugh, it's been rough since then, and it's
yeah.
not going to get
Really,
easier, you know.
no, it's not.
Uh, but yeah, then I guess the other one, the Jets got their finally got a win Thursday night over the Texans. Surprisingly,
Big
as
one. Man,
Garrett Wilson made that just amazing catch.
amazing. Man, wow.
Hmm.
This is an epic
Uh,
catch. But yeah, where did that come from? Like, they
mm,
dominated the Texans. It's like, what?
mm-hmm.
So
Big
weird.
second half domination too.
Yeah.
And then Bucks and Chiefs Monday night should be an interesting one. Chiefs try to
Is
stay
anybody
unbeaten.
healthy for the Bucks?
Yeah, that's true. I don't think Mike Evans is going to be there. So I don't know who Baker's throwing to,
Yeah.
but
What's name's out for the year? But
yeah, a Godwin, yeah, with that dislocated
he
ankle.
was having a
So
hell of a season too.
yeah, he was having a good bounce back season after
Yeah,
a couple of injuries. But next week, some big ones. Bengals and Ravens on Thursday night. They tried to match that classic they played a couple weeks ago. Uh, you got Bills and let's see, Broncos and Chiefs. Could be interesting. The
mm-hmm.
49ers and Bucks. We'll see how that goes. Big Steelers and Commanders, a big one next Sunday.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting.
you mentioned your Eagles and Cowboys. Lions and Texans next Sunday night.
That could be fun.
Um, and then the resurgent Rams host the Dolphins, who try to salvage their season next Monday
Really, the
night.
Dolphins should have won the last 2 weeks. Probably should have beat the
Hmm.
Bills. And they had a heck of a comeback. They definitely should have won last week.
Yeah, and
It's
that was the worry about them before the season, is that their defense might have fallen off too much, and I think
yeah.
uh, that's probably what it is right there.
No, but what do you do as the Dolphins? In your future, what do you do? I mean, do you have the right? Do they feel they have the right coach? I don't know.
I don't know. I think offensively, he's now with Tua back
Yeah,
and getting healthier. I think that
but
offense
their
is turning
defense is
around.
atrocious,
Yeah,
though.
I think that roster. Yeah, I think it's a roster building thing. I think they need
Yeah.
to rebuild that defensive side of the ball there.
But they spend so much. And the thing is, there's no matter what, they're stuck with Tua. I mean, whether they have the injury, 'cause, I mean, they gave him all that money. They
Hmm.
spent all that money on the offense, and it just hasn't looked as good as what you would expect it to look. And that was even a shocker. We had talked about it, just how bad they looked without Tua. Like, I understand it should be a little step back, but man, with all that talent, for it to be that bad when he was gone, just didn't make any sense.
Mm-mm. Um, but yeah, moving on. Let's see what else happened this week in the world of sports. The Dodgers did finish off your Yanks in the World Series. Freddie Freeman, a very well deserved
Yeah,
World Series MVP.
horrible choke job. Oh,
Yeah, that inning though, that
that
was
fifth inning was brutal.
as
Absolutely brutal.
I hadn't watched that game at all, and I think me and my wife were about to sit down and watch something else. I was like, hey, let me just check score of this game real quick. And I put it on. I'm like, oh, looks like the Yanks are going to force it back to LA, and then just
Yeah.
watched it unravel.
Oh
Uh,
my goodness, that fifth inning was so ridiculous.
so you got
Garrett
to one.
Cole had going for the two
Mm,
two outs. Looking, he was
mm,
dealing. Everything looked beautiful. Then everything just fell apart so
everything,
fast.
yeah, just and dumb mistakes too. The judge dropped the ball. The Garrett Cole not covering first
Not
base
running
on
the
that
first.
grounder. Yeah,
Oh
and then
man.
Freddie Freeman gets that clutch hit.
Yeah.
It's
And the
what else
crazy
is.
thing has been that like the second or third inning, Aaron Judge on the wall had is just an epic catch. And it's just like, but then he drops the easy one.
Mhm. Yeah,
Ah,
it's just
yeah, it's tough.
so
Because
what do they have to do to get the crown back? Is that is this an Aaron Boone thing? Is it just a mind thing? Is it I think obviously it starts with they absolutely have to. re-sign Soto, right? They can't let him go somewhere else.
Uh, yeah, but everybody's gonna be in that. Man,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be so. It's gonna. It might be tough, and he didn't really give a good, answer you feel confident about. He said, "Well, I'm gonna give everybody a shot, pretty much." So it's like, damn, everybody's gonna throw him some money. You know, I don't know if he keep him or not. But that should have been something that should have been locked up well ahead of this. Because now,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no, you're not getting them for less than 650, 750.
Yeah, it's going to be
You
an
know,
expensive deal, that's for sure.
yeah, it's expensive no matter what. And just what he did in the playoffs, I mean, the money just ballooned. I mean, honestly, I mean, it's gonna, man. Eventually, there's gonna be $1 billion contract, and Soto might get one of those eventually, just because what he did was crazy. But the other thing with the offseason for the Yankees is just gonna be, what do you do with Aaron Boone? He
Mm-hmm.
had some questionable stuff he did at times, just with his. But my biggest thing is, man, Cashman. I don't know how he keeps his job, but
Hmm.
I don't know.
Should be a,
And,
a, a fun free agent.
oh, it's gonna be a lot of big names out there.
See, yeah, the Braves already made a deal. They made a
Yeah, I
small
saw
deal.
that.
They traded
Yeah,
away Jorge
picture.
Soler for a pitcher from the Angels who could be like a back end of the rotation starter, but I think it's more they just got rid of that Soler's contract. He was just kind of a plug in to try to fill in for Ronald Acuna.
Right.
Um, it didn't quite relive the magic of a couple of seasons ago when
No.
he was their World Series MVP, but he would have cost 16 mil for the next couple of
Yeah.
seasons, so that's a good salary
Yeah.
dump there.
Right. Because yeah, I mean
Um,
the dude's stats aren't amazing, but also you look where he was at too, and that plays into it
mhm.
so bit. So we'll see.
Yeah, and then NBA season rolling along. Nothing huge. Kind of
I
just
was
some. Go ahead.
I'm not just saying some of these teams that are struggling out the gate, like the Bucks. I mean,
Hmm.
they're struggling bad.
And some very low rumblings about maybe Giannis, some trade rumblings there. So
That
we'll
would be
see
crazy.
how. Yeah, see how their season turns around. You got
Joel
kind of a
Embiid
weird.
getting into it with folks.
Yeah, yeah, getting into it with a columnist, had referenced his son and his late brother.
Yikes.
It does look like Paul George will make his Sixers debut Monday.
Yeah.
Um, and other than that, it's kind of like some injuries. With Seth Curry, obviously, we talked about the Pelicans injuries last week.
Mhm.
De'Aaron Fox has an injury on his shooting hand
Yeah.
out there for the Kings. And happy news, the Raptors will retire their first ever jersey in franchise history. Vince Carter, it was retired, I should say. Um, Vince Carter's 15 retired by Toronto, well
Yeah.
deserved. Um, but yeah, just early season stuff going on, like you said. Some struggles with some teams, but it's early yet. Long season. Um, but we should mention too. Great, the Cavs, man, 7-0 start.
7-0, yeah. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we had questioned, why they fired their coach and everything, but
Mm-hmm.
it's worked out so far. This year,
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to see, how they look.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a long, it's just a long season there. But I think the biggest thing, just starting off with just how bad the Bucks have looked so far this year. It's
Mm-hmm.
crazy.
Yeah, they have not looked good at all. It's worrisome if you're a Milwaukee fan right now,
Yeah, for sure.
as they are 1-5 and
Getting blown out.
struggling. Yeah, they just haven't looked good at all. I think another surprise too. Utah at 0-6. I thought they'd be a little more competitive
Right.
than that, but you wonder if are they in the Cooper Flag sweepstakes? Do they make some trades and do they finally trade Laurie Markkinen at some point? Um,
Oh, and then
but
a
yeah.
tough break for the Magic losing um
Oh,
Pablo.
yeah, Paolo. Is he out for the year? Was that it, or no? Is it just a kind of
I don't think he's out for the year, but I think it's, it's
a
one of the ones you don't
significant
know for
amount of
sure.
time?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
a significant amount of time. Uh, Real unfortunate for them. It was
But we
a
killed him today.
yeah. He's gonna
Yeah,
travel with the team, so
you're right. So hopefully it's
yeah.
not that bad.
hmm Torn right oblique. That's the injury I was looking
Yeah.
for. So that yeah, it could be a good few. Probably like a 4 to 6 weeker at least. You said the Mavericks beat them today. But
Yeah, we been about like 20, 24 or something.
mm, mm,
Luca's still getting back into it a little bit. You know, he had a long summers, so
mm-hmm,
and he went healthy at the end, so he's just getting back into it. Had a good game today, which is
mm-hmm.
good to see.
Yeah. Other than that, though, yeah, like I said, early season. NHL season isn't going or kicking off soon, or kicked off this week. I'm honestly not sure.
Yeah, it's been going on for a couple.
Couple weeks. It's same
Yeah,
as okay.
yeah, they played 13
Okay, yeah.
most 12, 13 games. So yeah, it's been
Oh
going
yeah.
on for a little bit there.
It
So
shows you how much I pay attention.
yeah, I
Until
mean
the
they're just
playoffs.
in a
Yeah. Yeah.
tough situation. I mean they don't
hmm
they don't really stand out, and outside your hardcore hockey fans, there's really not I guess until playoffs, there's really not any casual hockey
hmm
fans, really.
It's tough too. Then yeah, you got looks like soccer wise, seasons going on.
College basketball
Manchester
starts tomorrow.
City's yeah, college basketball. That's one thing that was in my notes I wanted to hit on. Yeah, the season starts.
Yeah,
Big
tomorrow.
expectations here for our Tide, man.
Man,
As we said, most definitely got to be the most talented roster in
ever.
school history, and yeah, let's get to it, man. It's exciting. Uh,
We got a hell of November. You know, at the end of the month there. I mean, we play
mhm,
Illinois, Houston, Rutgers, Purdue, and
mhm,
then in December we have North Carolina, Creighton. So I mean,
mhm.
another big non-conference schedule. But I think this year we're gonna get a couple of those wins that we didn't see last year.
Yeah, and we saw the benefits it's reaped,
Right, we
especially
definitely
last
saw.
season with those tough
Yeah,
games.
we
And
saw. Yeah,
but it kicks off, yeah, like I said, Monday night, 8 p.m.
yeah,
on ESPNU against UNC Asheville.
yeah. So
Um,
hopefully,
so yeah,
I
we'll see.
just you just like to want to see how folks, the new guys with the old guys, how they all gel. I mean,
hmm
obviously they look good in the two, look pretty good in the two pre preseason games there against Wake and Memphis, but
hmm
of course those were practice games, so who knows
hmm
with
But
those.
yeah,
But look good. Got two wins there against two teams very well could be tournament teams. So
hmm
it's
yeah,
good.
and let's see how they handle the hype. They've never had
Yeah,
this kind of hype before. So
never before.
let's see this talented roster with the
Yeah,
transfers and the
but
newcomers
I think they'll be okay because I mean just because I think Sears became a hell of a leader last year, and I think he'll even
hmm
be better this year. Um, and I think also this year the benefit too is I think Grant Nelson. I know he's
hmm
a little banged up, but I think he has a better idea of how much
well,
more physical the SEC was. You know
he
how the
figured out his
SEC
game.
is. Yeah,
Yeah, he really figured out his game in the tournament, especially.
yeah,
We the big game against
right.
UNC, and
And the
he really
huge
didn't
game.
back. Yeah, didn't back
Yeah,
down against UConn.
Yeah,
And now, with Big Clifford Omarui transferring in to be that rim protector behind him, he can
that's huge.
he can
He
he
can,
can get into his space a little bit more, and he can play his
right.
game.
Yeah. Cause
So I think that's
he
huge.
got put into some tough situation last year where he was expected to be
Yeah.
the big dog on defense, and that's just not his game really. So yeah, having Cliff really helps out because he's like a walking double double with 4 blocks. So that's huge guy to have there. But he's also an athletic big guy. So I mean that was the thing too. We just with our style, but we got the right type of big guy.
Hmm.
Cause he's very athletic, so that's you know um, yeah, it's gonna be exciting. I mean, I think that this team, sky is definitely the limit. Obviously, with big expectations, but I think they're gonna, I don't know if we make a Final Four again or not, but I think we're gonna be right. I don't think we're gonna go limping into the tournament like we did last year either.
No, yeah, it's tough to make back-to-back Final Fours, but
Yeah.
with this roster, the expectations are there, and Lord willing, we're back in. I don't even know where
Yeah,
the
I mean
Final
the
Four
main
is this
thing,
year. Uh,
I mean the main thing you hope for is that everybody stays healthy more than anything, because of course that
hmm
can draw up the season more than anything. So, if folks stay healthy. I think I don't see anything less than at least the second weekend, just because
Oh yeah,
there's
as we
just so much
mentioned,
talent.
that's the
That should
expectation
be
now. That's what
that should
made
be the
Oates. Yeah.
expectation. Yeah,
Hmm.
anything, and really, I mean, the Sweet 16 should be a almost a something you like. At some point, we're gonna be like, oh, okay, cool.
Hmm.
It's not so
Yeah.
much, oh yeah, Sweet 16. We still get pretty excited about Sweet 16. Eventually, hopefully, we'll get to where, treated like Duke and Carolina and Kentucky. We'll never quite get to that level, but, whereas the Sweet 16 is just, yeah, of course, we're in the Sweet 16, you know.
Yeah. San Antonio. That is where the Final Four is this year. Real quick, just about that before we end up here.
Mhm.
The Twitter account, I believe it's called Alabama Hoops History or Alabama Basketball History, did a countdown of the top like 20, 25 Alabama players in school
Mhm.
history. Number one was Brandon Miller. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I would probably, yeah. I mean, what he did that season was incredible. So yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, that was my thing. Yeah, just one season, but what an incredible impact he had. And
Yeah.
as you hate to play the what if game, but if he were 100% in that NCAA tournament, it was really lined up for us to make a run.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean,
So,
he dealt with a lot that year too. I mean, with that
hmm
whole issue with
yeah,
the shooting and everything. If that hadn't happened, I mean, I think it would have been an even better season than what. And he had a hell of a season.
hmm
Yeah, that and his health kind of,
yeah, he had that
got
was it ankle or calf or something like that injury that he
yeah,
got in the
that
SEC
first game.
tournament that really
Yeah,
you could tell really affected him in the
right,
NCAA tournament.
exactly.
But yeah, so let's go ahead and wrap up this week. Greg, what has been done up real good for you?
Man, that for me really, man. Honestly, it was just the craziness of yesterday. Just one of them weekends, not necessarily outside of Ohio State, Penn State, good, not maybe the sexiest games on the schedule, but
Hmm.
man, they more than lived up to the expectations. And you have to think if that's what we got now, and in the first weekend of November, man, we're in for a heck of a end of November into the championship Saturday and in the playoffs. So,
Hmm.
how about you?
I'm gonna go with my little boy turned 2 yesterday, Saturday. Uh,
Huge.
so good party. He's
Nice.
a happy little running and climbing little fool. He keeps us busy, that's for sure. Uh,
That's awesome.
but yeah, it's cool. It's something I never thought I'd really enjoy as much as I did. I have is fatherhood, but so yeah. Like I said,
Yeah,
I am.
once it happens, yeah, it just
Mhm.
changes everything.
Yeah, yeah. I am ready for him to chill out just a little bit. Quit,
Yeah.
death-defying stunts. But I know with
You
the
still
little
have
boy, that's yeah, it's a long time. So.
yeah, it takes about I know my son probably to about 5 when he started kind of getting some idea. Maybe a little more fearful of stuff or not as
Mhm.
much just to do any and everything. But yeah, those
Mhm.
first couple of years, you're like, whoa.
He's a feral little raccoon of a baby. He
Yeah.
just, yeah, he's crazy, but he's been great. But that does it for us this week, folks. Thanks again for listening. As always, subscribe, give us good ratings and likes, and wherever you listen to us. Tell your friends about us, tell your rich friends about us, and if you know of anybody that wants to sponsor us, tell them give us a holler. Check
Sure.
out all the great podcasts on the Alabama Take family of podcasts. I actually made a guest appearance on Taking It Down this week.
Nice.
Little pinch hitting for as Adam and Donovan are had to miss this week, so I jumped on there with Blaine. We talked a little bit, some TV. Um, I believe Mallory, I think she's going to start pumping out a few more episodes now of the Stare Down, give you a different perspective on the sporting world. Of course, there's We Are a Star War. And then just look out for anything else. Check out the alabamatake.com for all kinds of articles. There's weekly coverage of the challenge with Blaine and myself. There's our Taking Bets column with me, Greg, Blaine, and Mallory. How'd you do this weekend, Greg?
Um, I know I got pins. I think I went through. If I'm thinking right, I went 3-1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a
'Cause I know
two
I
for.
got the Cowboys. I got Penn, Ohio State. I think I got SMU. I think I missed out. If I'm thinking, if I did it right, off the top of my head, I think I missed the Arkansas. I think I had them at plus whatever the 8.5.
Mhm.
But
Let's see, pull it up real quick. Yeah, you got SMU and the Falcons, and you had A&M and Arkansas were your misses.
oh,
So
did I have A&M? Okay.
yeah, two
I
and
do a
two.
couple different betting things, so I was sitting trying to think, but
Yeah, I 2 and 2
bunch of
myself. Had Vandy, and then I had the over in the Ravens Broncos game today. I just missed
nice.
on Illinois. I thought they might put up more of a fight at home against Minnesota, but they did not as a home dog. And then I think I mentioned earlier that Duke. I had it. It was looking great until the last
It
few
was
minutes, and
looking good. It was looking
Miami
good.
just.
I mean, they were up at halftime, and I was like, whoa.
Hmm. Yeah, and I got 20 points. 20 and a half was the line, so I was like, okay, Duke can hang around that close.
Yeah.
Let's see. I
One
think
other thing, I
Mallory.
talk about
She.
that Miami.
Mm,
Man, I don't care how far away they are from the stadium. Shame on the Miami for not showing up to that game yesterday. Like, I understand it's Miami, there's other stuff to do, but man, this Miami team is electric. There
oh
should be no
yeah,
reason why that stadium was so empty. Like,
yeah.
that's
It
crazy.
is. It's just another case, man. Put your campus or your stadium on campus, or at least reasonable.
Yeah, but
That's a.
still, like the
Yeah.
area should be supporting this team as of now. I understand, like I
Hmm.
know it's a different culture. They show up late, and they even to the Heat finals. But man,
Hmm.
this Miami team is electric. At least, I mean, usually they show up for winners. Like at least
Yeah.
show up for the team. Like even if it's late, like come on,
Yeah.
there should
There's
be no
a.
reason.
It's a big enough population in that area that they shouldn't have trouble. Yeah, selling out
Right?
games. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, but
Like
yeah.
show up for this squad because I mean, obviously you guys. It's not like where y'all had it every year. It's been a while. Show
Hmm.
some appreciation for these guys because it's been a long time for you Kane fans. Sh-
Hmm.
don't just show up for the Florida State game.
Yeah. But yeah, that does it for us, folks. As always, thanks for listening. Keep it done up real good yourselves out there. Greg, buddy, I'll see you next week.